How's your rent done in terms of, do you own the store or is it rented?
No, it's rented.
And is the landlord a good guy? Is he okay?
Yeah, he's a good guy.
All right?
Yeah.
Do you cut his hair, I hope?
I mean, he comes in from time to time.
You know what? If you're as good as your father says, right, and you cut his hair great, that's very important to barber to a guy. So he could be a wealthy landlord, but he'll give you a low rent because having a good barber is a very important thing, I can tell you.
So, Mr. President, you got a young guy right there.
That's a big thing, though.
It's a huge thing.
So how has your rent been? So where was it like 5 years ago, the rent?
I mean, the rent was significantly lower. Now it's gone up about 1,200 since.
Yeah, it's okay. It's a big increase.
My issue was more the energy. I've been paying $2,100 since I first opened up. In the last 7 months, it shot up to $15,000.
What?
It's $15,000, and that's
you went from 2,100
to $15,000 in this establishment. Yeah.
How many heads can you take care of? That's a lot, right?
It's like so much stealing and nutrition from us.
So what? From 2,100 to 15,000.
Yeah. So
it is an example, though. Energy, right? So energy, when that comes down, ready? I almost hate to say because you'd be at 7,000, right? But your energy bill from January 20th, if I win, we gotta win.
We gotta win. We gotta win. What do you think, Joe Resinello?
Well, dude, it's just another example of how the little guy's getting crushed by the globalists. I mean, Joe Biden destroyed people. He destroyed people. He put ideology over people. There's a guy who's trying to make a living. He's working hard. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, in all honesty, $15,000. Maybe it is. I don't know. But it's a significant raise. He's making a point.
Let's say he went from $2,000 for his energy bill and it went to $4,000. Not 50. It's still 100% for a working 100%. Guy.
Whatever it is, it's ridiculous. And that's a regular person. And like I said, that's what the Democrats don't get. And frankly, I don't know if they care. Because they did get, no, but that's my point. I don't take them for stupid people. Like, I personally think that they did, like, it's like, what's it called? I remember when I heard the interview with the head of the Teamsters on Tucker. And he was basically saying how when he went to speak with Kamala Harris, how she basically said, you will come along. Like, it was almost like, you're going to get, they thought their plan to execute with regard to election manipulation, with regard to bringing in voters, that's the European model, that they were going to win. And it doesn't matter if the bill goes up. You're going to pay it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they figure they had all the cards, all the leverage. This is not a rich guy. He's a guy making a living, a normal guy. He works in the Bronx. He's working hard, and they're crushing him. And that's the example that people have to basically see with their eyes. And this is what I would say to people who can pay their bills. Do you care about that guy? You should.
You should, yeah. You should.
You know what I'm saying? And I sometimes wonder that, Joe. I really do.
I'm going to say this. I know if somebody's got a lot of money, they could sit there and they could say, I want to give the benefit of the doubt to the wealthy Americans, okay, that their heart goes out to that guy. At the end of the day, a wealthy American, their energy bill to heat their home or all that kind of stuff that they need in their home, if it went up 100%, those people, they're not going to like it, but they're not going to be so affected. Their lifestyle is not going to change. That guy there, his energy bill goes from $2,000 to $4,000. Forget about $15,000. Just $2,000 to $4,000. His life changes. He's got $24,000 more a year coming out of his business instead of going either into his pocket or reinvested into his business. Maybe he could take over the store next door. Maybe he can knock down a wall. Maybe he can hire another barber. Maybe he can expand his business. See, but the thing is this. You said it. You hit the nail on the head. Everybody out there listening to us at the front line with Joe and Joe, you know what we feel about this. Joe, this is all by design. We're going to go to Canada tonight. We're going to talk about America. We're going to talk about Trump tariffs on Canada, Justin Trudeau, the globalists in the EU. Joe, they don't care about that guy. we've said it a million times. I'll say it a million times before I die. A guy complained to Justin Trudeau about the carbon tax, and Trudeau berated him. He berated him on Canadian public television. He berated a guy who's complaining to the Prime Minister of Canada that the damn carbon tax that Trudeau and the Liberal government imposed was hurting him. And Trudeau started talking about the Ukraine and yelling at this guy, saying he doesn't know what pain and suffering is. Joe, these people need to get it. Well, they have gotten it through their head. America was the one thing that they needed to keep. They already have Europe. They're fighting like hell in other parts of the world. They needed to keep America in the hands of American globalists like the Democrat Party and many in the Republican Party. And they lost. And they're going to do everything they can. And they're shaking. They really are shaking in their boots. Joe, they're doing backdoor deals in all these shady places in Europe right now to try to figure out, okay, what's the new way forward? These people are like the devil, Joe. They don't sleep. They don't sleep. They are hell-bent on everybody's destruction. My whole point is I hope Americans at least, and hope the rest of the world too, Joe, I hope they wake up. I hope they wake up. I hope working people wake up. These people are not on your side. And you could love or hate Donald Trump or MAGA. These people want nothing but to make you into a servile class, a slave class. Get it through your head. They want that barber out of business. He's a threat to them.
Well, when they say, people might hear that misconstrued, he's a threat because he's independent. They're not looking for independent people. They're looking for people that can be controlled. If you own your own business, you're independent. And frankly, that's not the name of the game. Because this is a new version of feudalism. It's 21st century feudalism. That's what globalism is. But ultimately, I want Democrats to take a good look at that clip. He should be a voting Democrat. Many Democratic pundits have been saying that. I remember hearing it a long time ago. The people on the south side of Chicago do not speak the same language with the people at the University of Chicago, and they're both considered Democrats. That guy should be a Democrat, yet who's he talking to? The Democratic Party has fundamentally changed, and some people have not gotten that through their head yet, Joe. They can't grasp that idea. They no longer appeal to that guy. Why? Because they're crushing him. And then you get a guy like Don Lemon on the boardwalk of New Jersey in Atlantic City telling someone to their face when they say there's inflation, I can't afford basic things. There's no inflation.
That's what he said.
That guy. And this is, again, what people can't get through their head. And it's frustrating to me when I see a regular person, and I'm not putting Trump on a pedestal. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes people think as if I'm trying to canonize the guy. He was just the clear choice for normal people. It's not even a debate.
Right.
Not even a debate, because it came down to basics like that guy was talking about. And when I see somebody who's like, yeah, I work for UPS and my wife's a nurse and I voted for Joe Biden, I'm just like, dude, he's slitting your throat.
Right.
You can't afford to live. You can't afford basic things.
You said independence. You said, look, we all know, if you're joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe, please, wherever you're watching this, X, Rumble, Facebook, YouTube, help us out. Like, subscribe, share, mostly share. Help us out. Let's get out to a wider audience, get these conversations out. We got a lot of great clips for you tonight. We're going to go to Canada. We're going to talk about the tariffs that Trump's talking about. We're going to play you a clip on that. We're also going to talk about, these Democrats, Joe, in these in these hearings. They really are outdoing themselves, if that's even possible. But we have to remember, the slave class has risen up now, okay? At least many of them. Black men, 20% voted for Donald Trump. Hispanics, over 50% voted for Donald Trump. They're losing their block. The elites used to be able to
just clarify what you mean by slave class. I think what he's trying to basically articulate is these are a lot of people who were basically dependent upon the state.
I'll tell you here. I'll put it in the language that particularly our Canadian brothers and sisters can understand. People who are living below the poverty line.
That's a lot of, because
that's the slave class. That's what they're trying to create. Okay, that's why they hate that barber. That's why Trudeau hates the working class and the middle class in Canada. Because that's why 25% of Canadians live below the poverty line. That's why Obama. That's why if you go to San Francisco, Joe and I say all the time, we brought out a popular image that was online 3 years ago. People in San Francisco at the outdoor cafe sipping on Grey Goose in the afternoon and eating foie gras in the background, and in the foreground a guy's defecating in the gutter. That's what the Obama wants. That's what the oligarchs want. That's what Justin Trudeau wants. That's what Emmanuel Macron wants. That's what the European Union wants. That's what I mean by slave class. They want to turn us all into a service or slave class where they throw us crumbs, they give us sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and our job is simply to serve them and say thank you for our handcuffs and our chains. That's what they want. And Trump, Joe, is inching us towards becoming much more independent of the state. And I think that's what a lot of what's going on in the fear that's going on in the Senate. And we'll get to it in a little bit. But give me a comment on that, Joe.
Well, ultimately, listen, feudalism is not where you want to be. I mean, like you said, and also look at the precedents. Look at Europe. Europe's a wasteland. Europe is a wasteland. All countries that embrace this idea destroy the middle class. And I'll be honest with you, we're very lucky. I'm talking just from a financial perspective. If Trump lost, gasoline prices would have been $5 a gallon. We would be like, I'm telling you, look at the price of car insurance. It's off the hook.
Right.
Like they're crushing people. These are not luxuries. And again, look at your checkbook. Don't listen to Don Lemon. And that's why, to be honest with you, Harris lost.
That's right.
It was a basic layup.
And they can't understand. Go ahead.
No, yet some people still voted.
Listen, they can't get it through their head. They can't get through it. Donald Trump is as serious could be about doing all these things that we were all told in our lifetimes could never happen. Here's one for you.
America is going to be very rich again, and it's going to happen very quickly. It's time for the United States to return to the system that made us richer and more powerful than ever before. Do you know the United States in 1870 to 1913, all tariffs, and that was the richest period in the history of the United States, relatively speaking. In other words, relatively. And they set up the Great Tariff Commission of 1887, and this commission had one function: what to do with all the money that we took in. It was so enormous that they had no idea. It was a blue ribbon committee. It was set up 1887, and what to do with all of the money that we had. And again, Teddy Roosevelt was a beneficiary, because when McKinley was killed, he took over this vast sum of money, and he did all of those national parks and all of the other things. And I'm not knocking him, but he was given a vast amount of money, and that was all made through tariffs. We had no income tax. The income tax came in 1913. As I said in my speech last week, instead of taxing our citizens to enrich foreign nations, we should be tariffing and taxing foreign nations to enrich our citizens. Does that make sense, right?
Makes all the sense in the world. Stay with me and watch this clip, everybody. Watch this, Joe.
So we'll be announcing the tariffs on Canada and Mexico for a number of reasons. Number one is the people that have poured into our country so horribly and so much. Number two are the drugs, fentanyl, and everything else that have come into the country. And number three are the massive subsidies that we're giving to Canada and to Mexico in the form of deficits. And I'll be putting the tariff of 25% on Canada and separately 25% on Mexico. And we will really have to do that because we have very big deficits with those countries. Those tariffs may or may not rise with time.
Will oil be part of that, though? Because we get oil from Canada.
Oil is going to have nothing to do with it as far as I'm concerned. Oil has nothing to do with it.
This is enormous. This is enormous. Now, I'm just going to give you on one level. This is a conversation, Joe, that you and I could have for 3 hours about the benefit of imposing tariffs and abolishing the personal income tax at the same time. You saw in the first clip, he's talking about abolishing the personal income tax. Here, let's bring it down to a philosophical level, okay? Not a level of economics. I don't want the government treating my property, which is my paycheck, as though it belongs to them for them to tell me how much of it I could keep. You are the smartest people in the room. That's what you always tell us. You figure out a way to raise the money that the government needs to fund the things that the government needs. That's a whole other conversation. And leave my paycheck alone. My paycheck is for me, my wife, and my family, not for you. I'll pay tax in the form of consumption, national sales tax. If I want to buy foreign goods, I'll pay the tariff on the foreign goods, the extra tax on the foreign goods. But my paycheck is mine. And you can't tell me how much of it anymore I could keep. I tell you how much you could take. It's that simple.
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't know where he's going with the Canada thing and the Mexico thing for that matter. Is it really a border crisis as far as people coming in? I don't know. I can't speak to it. He did negotiate the deal with Canada in his last term. We would get oil at a discount rate. Now he seems to be going back on that. I don't know where he's going. I'm not going to pretend to. Is this a bluff? What's his end game? I don't know. I'll be honest with you. Is he serious about trying to basically see if this could cause, I don't know, chaos in Canada? Because we're going to play a clip with Doug Ford, the premier of Ontario. He's going to talk about it. Many people are saying, and they are concerned. Listen, Canada is in bad shape as it is due to Trudeau. This is just adding a lot of hardship. Where is he going with it? Does he think that maybe some parts of Canada will want to X out of Canada? Maybe he's looking to grab Alberta. I don't know. I don't know is all I'm saying. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know if he's bluffing. He definitely has an end game. I just don't know what it is. But I will say this will cause hardship in that country, our friends in Canada. There's no question about that. And Doug Ford is right when he says that. This is a serious, serious situation.
Joe, and this is not, I'm certainly, I'm certainly not uncaring, let's put it like this, about our friends in Canada. But ultimately, their economic condition has to do with Ottawa, not with Washington, D.C. Their economic problems stem from the fact that Justin Trudeau has been the president for what? The last prime minister for the last 8 years. 9 years. It's a them problem. If you want a better country, look, Americans, after knowing we got robbed in 2020, okay, we got robbed, and I believe it's providential. Maybe it was good that Donald Trump was not president because he learned in the 4 years in the wilderness, okay? But my point is this. The American people in 2024, 5 million more voted for Donald Trump. All right, 5 million more people voted for Donald Trump. He won the popular vote and crushed her in the Electoral College. We took care of getting Biden and the others out of office. We have the House. We have the Senate. All right, thin margin in the House. We have the Senate. Okay, we took care of our business to make our country better. Joe, Canadians got to take care of their business to make their country better. You have to get rid of, Justin Trudeau and all his machinations. I don't know all the politics and how the government works up there. He says, I'm leaving, but he's basically sabotaging. He's sabotaging everything before he leaves. Okay. He's doing what Biden did. He's making it difficult for the person who's going to come in. Let's say it's Pierre Poilievre. He's making it difficult for him to govern. He's putting up barriers. Trump is right for doing this. And as the people of Canada start suffering under the weight of their own government in Ottawa, maybe they're going to wake up and do something about it like we did, okay? So it really is on them. It's not on Trump. It's on them, okay? They need to straighten out their own house. I bet you if they did that, I bet that 25% tariff might either come down dramatically or maybe disappear completely. But right now, Canada's not a good trading partner for us, not because of the Canadian people, because of people like Justin Trudeau and the Liberal government.
Well, that could potentially be his end game. Maybe he's trying to pressure the people to vote these individuals out. He's turning up the heat. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, he seems to have very good relations with Danielle Smith. She went to his inauguration. They had a lot of good talks. I don't know. But ultimately, I will say this: Canada has to smarten up. I mean, we're going to play a clip a little bit later of the gentleman who's trying to potentially take over leadership of the liberal wing of the Canadian government. And frankly, he's basically saying that the carbon taxes that have been levied haven't been enough.
Here, wait. Here. It's a short one. Stay with us. I was hoping you'd get to this quick, Joe.
Now, so far, carbon prices have been applied sparingly. They've been set far too low, in the single digits on average globally, well short of the estimated $80 to $100 a ton needed by the end of this decade to keep us on track to net zero.
They keep talking about net zero. They keep making it seem like the climate change is actually what their concern is, when we know that whole thing is a hoax. Joe, there's your oligarch right there. He's saying it's not enough how much they're squeezing out of the Canadian people. And the Canadian people need to rebel against him and his ideology and the people in Ottawa who support him and who support the carbon tax. Maybe Trump is by making this move with the 25% tariffs. Put pressure on Canada for the people of Canada to get those idiots out, the people that are sucking them dry.
It's very possible. I'll be honest with you. If the people vote for this Carney guy, I mean, what Justin Trudeau just did to you was a bludgeoning. 1 in 4 people are under the poverty line. I mean, we played a clip last week. The kid can't even afford to put gas in his car. I mean,
Trudeau's in the restaurant eating oysters.
And you notice the house that Carney was in. Look at the back of. I mean, he lives well.
Sure.
I don't understand the thinking. I really don't, Joe. It's mind-boggling to me. Again, we could disagree on other things. This is basic fundamental stuff like survival, like eating. Having a car is a necessity. You need a car to get to work. This is not like, we're not talking about luxury items. The price of food. I mean, this is basic stuff. Stuff. And this guy's basically saying, you know something? I'm going to tax you more. And then Trump is putting this additional tax on the people. Maybe it is to wake people up, to get people like this Carney and get him out of here. I mean, I don't know what his end game is. I do think it is a game. He's definitely has a strategy in mind where he's trying to guide it. I don't know. Only time's going to tell. But I'll tell you this. The Canadian people have to wake up. You have to see clearly. These people are for an ideology. They're not for you.
No, they're not for you. And as far as Mexico is concerned, I don't care at all. I don't care at all about Mexico. I'm being honest with you. I care about Canada. I don't care one bit about what happens in Mexico. I don't care if their economy gets crushed. These are people who converted to the Catholic Church, to Christianity after Our Lady of Guadalupe, and they've totally gone over to the devil for the most part. Okay, they let cartels run the whole thing. You have Freemasons galore running the government of Mexico. They let people come from south of Mexico up to our border and into the United States. They let the cartels run everything. Everybody's corrupt. I don't care. In fact, you should slap 100% tariff on Mexico. I don't have to buy anything from Mexico. Nothing whatsoever. Okay, I can live my life just fine, never purchasing anything that was made in Mexico. Mexico has been such a bad part. You can't even call them a partner. They've been such a dishonest broker. They've never done anything other than hurt us. Okay, they've allowed all this crap, these illegals to come into the country, the fentanyl to come into the country. They let foreign assets, Al Qaeda and terrorists come in through their border, through Mexico into the United States. I don't care what happens with Mexico. My heart is with Canada. My heart is with Canada. I don't care if Mexico ends tomorrow. I really don't.
My heart's still with people. Again, people have to just wise up and see things clearer. I mean, honestly, the regular person is indifferent to stuff like this. All they want to do, really, even like some very well-to-do people, they just want to live. Like most people just want to live. And these are like our quote-unquote representatives. I don't see how one could see it that way. And again, there's more of you than them. This is where unity is important. That's why, to be honest with you, the president in El Salvador is in the situation that he's in. I heard he has 90% approval rating.
Yeah.
90%, Joe. I mean, that's unheard of. because basically the country fell into the abyss. It was run by gangsters, in plain English, and people had enough. I mean, is that what it has to take?
Sure.
Like, I sometimes think, like, it's like the story of the Old Testament. Exodus, return, into the desert, return. How bad does it have to be till people open their eyes? How far does your face have to get pushed on the stove? I mean, in all honesty. And then it's the people who rationalize it in their head. They basically project their suffering on some political enemy that frankly doesn't exist, when the very people that are torturing you is an ideology. It's an ideology. It has nothing to do with you. And most people oppose that ideology.
Right.
You ask them. But at the end of the day, it's like, Jude, it's like schizophrenia. Joe, I swear, I've never seen anything like it before in my entire life. I see it in New York City. People complain about the crime. Who'd you vote for? The very people. They do it again. And you're just like, I don't know what to say to you. I don't know what to say to you.
David's in the chat room, right? Hey, David, how are you? We got a lot of people in the chat room, a lot of new people. A lot of our friends are in there. Well, they're all our friends. But David said, and I didn't know this, I'm going to assume David is accurate with this, 50% of Canadians are $200 away from insolvency. Do you know what that means? That's like an average Canadian needs a brake job, okay? They need brake pads, and that's it. Their bank account is now in the red. Because or like they need an oil change because they're 15,000 miles since their last oil change, and Justin Trudeau put a tax on their oil. It really is disgusting.
No, but then at the end of the day, if that's the case, how could anyone even consider that political argument? You see, that's my point, where I just don't understand people. I don't understand.
I don't either. I don't know, because in Canada, there's not going to be any welfare because there's going to be no money. So even if you say, well, I'll go on the government dole, what good's that going to do you? Government's not giving you anything because the government doesn't have anything. Okay, but I do want to, here's Polyev.
We see on our own streets anti-Semitism, guided by obscene, woke ideologies that have led to an explosion in hate crimes. Hate crimes were up over 100% in Canada before October 7th. Now they're up 251%, with Jews being the principal victims of those crimes. We must not just condemn these things, we must take action against them. We must deport from our country any temporary resident that is here on a permit or a visa that is carrying out violence or hate crimes on our soil.
Well, he's obviously on board with the Trump agenda as far as immigration is concerned. Okay, obviously they have a problem in Canada too. I don't think it's as dramatic as ours. And he's probably the next prime minister of Canada, by the way. But the problem is he's being sabotaged by Ottawa. He's being sabotaged by Trudeau. So it's just going to make it more difficult. They tried to do not Biden, Obama, who is, Biden's just Obama's proxy. Obama tried to do the same thing to Trump as he's on his way in. Sabotage as much as you can, make it more difficult for your successor. Justin Trudeau's a Canadian. Barack Obama, Joe Biden, you're an American. You want to sabotage what the American people voted for before he could even get into office? These people were disgusting. Polyev's probably going to be the next PM, unless somebody in the chat room or Joe, you want to tell me different. I certainly would welcome it.
Well, I would think so as well. I mean, getting to the point of what Pierre was talking about, specifically about people who are on visas who are causing trouble. You're a guest in a country. You don't behave that way. He's 100% right. If you cause trouble, you're on a temporary visa and you're causing trouble, rioting, protesting, you're gone. I mean, it's really that simple. Right. It's really that simple. I mean, some of this stuff, to be honest with you, Joe, it's just common sense. There's just too much red tape and there's just too much BS. And frankly, it comes down to this word, No. You say that all the time, and you're right. The answer is no. We're not doing that. No, it's not even a discussion. You're on a temporary visa. You cause trouble. You hurt people. You're rioting. Guess what? We're arresting you and we're showing you to the border. Get out. You
Right.
come here to reap the benefits of our country. We welcomed you. And then this is how you behave? Wrong.
Right.
That's not how it works.
Right. And I'll tell you another thing too. I wouldn't care if it was a cause that I agree with. Okay. If you're not an American, if you keep it in America for a second, if you're not an American citizen, you are not protected by the Constitution. You're protected by the law. Let's say in your person, you could call a cop. You can't be attacked. You have certain rights. You don't have the right to free speech if you're not a citizen. You don't. You can't organize your fellow from wherever country you come from to go in the middle of Times Square and protest. What if I went in the middle of Tehran? You and me and about 300 Catholics.
Dude, you wouldn't last an hour.
We'll last about an hour before they chop our heads
No,
off.
you'd be dead.
If let's say we went over there to protest the treatment of women,
Dude, you wouldn't last an hour.
Anything along those lines. Okay. So you think that you could come here and you could abuse our laws? And again, remember something, it's all by design. That's always the theme of this show. Everything we discuss that's going on out there, it's all by design on one level or another. Okay. So Canada's the same thing. It's the problem I have is Canada, just with energy alone, Joe Resinello, just with energy alone, could be one of the most prosperous per capita countries in the world. And they're teetering, as that gentleman David said, where you have 50% of the country that's this close to insolvency. That's disgusting. Justin Trudeau's going to rot in hell for what he did to those people. That's what's going to happen to him because, again, it's by design. He knew exactly what he was doing. And when there was a protest with working class people and middle class people, truckers driving from one end of the country to the other, he raided their bank accounts. He called them Nazis. He called them fascists. Okay, this is a Western democracy. That's what we're always told. That's a Western democracy. When the people rise up, you attack them. They weren't Antifa. They weren't Black Lives Matter. They weren't burning down buildings. They drove their trucks to Ottawa. They disrupted traffic. So what? What's the big deal? They didn't hurt anybody. They didn't hurt anybody. But that's the globalists for you.
Well, it's funny. When that was all said and done, the court said that he violated constitutional rights. There was just no consequence. He shrugged his shoulders. I mean, again, it's for people to decide. I mean, you guys are going to vote. Look at what's been done to you. You got this guy Carney. He's basically saying it's not enough. And I mean, maybe this is why Trump is doing what he's doing. Maybe he's trying to wake people up a little bit, to force these people out so better partners get put in the seat that are going to work with America. Maybe that's his end game. I don't know what his end game is, but I do know this. The people of Canada have to open their eyes. How much is enough? It seems to me, if it was me, I'd raise my hand. I think, yeah. I mean, after 9 years of Justin Trudeau, you want more? You want 4 more years of torture? I mean, it's time to just say no. Get Polyev in there, and ultimately, let's see what we can do. He'll be a better partner with the U.S.
They need to do in Canada what we're hopefully about to do in the United States. You have an Office of Government Efficiency that's going to drain $2 trillion out of our federal budget. That's nothing but waste, fraud, and abuse. Because of that savings, Donald Trump's going to be able to move from a personal income tax to a tariff-based system, okay? That, as he explained in that clip, that was our period of greatest economic expansion, relatively speaking, from the late 19th century up until the time the personal income tax was instituted. That was our greatest period of economic expansion. In that time, in the last 100 years, Joe, that's only been the greatest period of time for government expansion, not economic expansion, where they just keep taking and taking and taking. Here's our lesson. Here's our thing to Canada. Canada, it took us, let's assume we wait till after the Great Society. So after Lyndon Johnson, 50 years. Is that not enough for the American people to say, all right, enough's enough? But that's why this is what we do on this show. This is kitchen table stuff, Joe. People have been talking about in my life, around me, talking about my entire life, that the personal income tax is a violation of my right to private property. My paycheck is my property. The government has everybody convinced, or not us, but many people convinced that we're going to fall apart We're going to fall apart if we don't have the personal impact. Here, they're going through the same thing in Canada. Here's a guy's going to try to convince the Canadian people that he's actually on their side.
Can you tell Ontarians, Premier, why this election is not opportunistic?
Well, what I'll tell the people of Ontario, we're going to see an unprecedented attack to our families, to our businesses, to our communities, something that we've never seen in the history of the country, getting economically attacked by the largest country in the world, the most powerful person in the world when it comes to President Trump. And we're going to be there for them. We're going to support the people. We're going to protect the people, protect their jobs, protect communities, protect businesses, just like we did during the pandemic. But this is going to be more of an impact. The pandemic was natural around the world. This is a man targeting to attack and take every business out of Ontario, out of Canada, and try to bring it to the United States. And I'll do whatever it takes to protect the people of Ontario.
He's going to be able to do nothing.
No, I know that.
Nothing.
I don't. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what he's talking about. I mean, I understand the severity of what he's saying, but I don't know what he can do.
Well,
and
he
frankly,
says, Joe, he says, I'm going to protect the Canadian people. What are you going to do, Doug? What are you going to? You just admitted we're the most powerful country in the world, and the president is the most powerful person in the world. What do you think you're going to possibly do to, what is Donald Trump? I'm going to throw it right back to you, Joe. What is Donald Trump going to do to the Canadian people that's so detrimental that you and people like you didn't already do to them?
Well, you know, the thing I don't understand is what is the problem with Donald Trump? Why can't they just make peace with him? I'm talking about if the leaders of your country are not willing to make peace with Trump, because I don't think he's asking, from what I heard, he just wants the border closed. If that's all he wants, why don't you do it? And if your leaders aren't willing to do that, throw them out.
Yeah.
I mean, Ludwig, who is basically the U.S. Secretary of Commerce, I heard him this morning. He basically said all we want is the border shut down, to basically tighten the border. If that's all that it takes to stop the tariffs, and if one of your leaders is not for that, well, get rid of them. To me, it's simple. And frankly, I actually think Canada should be its own sovereign nation. I'm not looking to annex any country. I don't think that's right. But what I will say is this. Are things going well for you right now? It doesn't seem like they are. So why would you possibly support someone who's going to go to war, a war they can't win? Doug Ford cannot win this war. And I mean, he basically said during the pandemic, things were okay. Things were okay. You were locked in your house. You couldn't get out of your house. Your businesses were shut down. Canada got devastated. They were okay. He protected you. What are you talking about? Protected you. Canada got destroyed. Canada is a wasteland, sadly. And it's because of policies. Get rid of the people who put those policies in place. It's that simple. It really is that simple.
I said this a few shows ago here at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello, away in the breach, as we always do Thursday nights, 9:00 Eastern time, where we talk about a whole bunch of things. And stick around because we're definitely going to be talking a little bit about some of the goings on in the United States Senate with some of the confirmation hearings, and maybe a little bit from Trump's press secretary. But here's my thing, Joe. I said this before. Why do we assume that borders can't change? Why do we assume that one country can't break off or split and then part of that country go join another country? It's happened all throughout human history. The history of Europe, where borders have been drawn and then erased and then drawn again. You know what I'd love to see, Joe? A line right through the middle of the United States, or right through the middle of Canada that goes straight from right above Minnesota, straight north. Okay, just straight north, and everything to the west becomes the 51st state of the United States. And this way we attach Alaska, which is a state, with Washington, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, Minnesota, and we have all of that, and we'll take all the oil too. Okay? And everybody in Canada who knows who has a brain cell, which are many of our Canadian brothers and sisters, you know what they're going to do? They're going to leave Eastern Canada, okay, and they're going to go join the new state of whatever they want to call it. That's going to now be the 51st state of the United States. Why? Why is that so far fetched? Listen, Donald Trump coming back from the political abyss, okay, was far fetched. Everybody had him dead, gone, done. None of this is going to happen. We're going to pay income tax for the rest of our lives. Globalism's here to stay. Klaus Schwab is the prince of darkness. He's going to run the world, and Bill Gates is his false prophet, and George Soros, and we just all have to deal with it. And Donald Trump came in and went like that. Okay, why can't the people of Canada turn around and say, you know what? If the liberals want the East, you take the East. We'll take the West, and we'll become part of the United States. Why not? Why not?
Well, I don't know if the Canadians want that. I've heard from what I've read that they're not on board with that. And I can understand that. Listen, it's their own country. All I would have to say is if Trump just wants the border shut, it's like being a good neighbor. Just do it.
Just
like if my neighbor, I mean, if
shut the door.
yeah, that's all. I mean,
shut
like
the
it's
door.
to me, it's a simple fix. If that's all he wants, then just do it. That's not like caving. That's basically just being a good neighbor. It's not a big ask. If he wants a secure border, give it to him. And then you can thrive. I mean, like, if that's all it is, it doesn't sound like a big deal to me.
I wish they would do it, and I wish Trump would pivot. He's probably going to do this anyway. Joe, I want to see him beat the crap out of the European Union. Listen, they have to get their comeuppance too. We as American people, we're not reliant. We are not reliant on Europe for trade. It's like I gave you, for everybody out there at the front line with Joe and Joe, before we went on, I gave Joe an example, okay? We're working class guys. We're Italian from New Jersey, okay? I'm in the mood, for, let's say, for argument's sake, I want to have a hunk of provolone this weekend. It's Friday afternoon. I'm going to pop down to the local Italian deli, okay? Or I'm going to go to the supermarket. They always have imported goods in the supermarket, all right? And I want a nice hunk of provolone, going to have company over, and I could spend $9 for a domestic brand and support an American business, okay? And it's a really good provolone. But then I want the Italian one, and that's normally $10, but now they slap a 25% tariff on it. Here's my thing. Joe, if I want to spend the extra $2.50 to cover the tariff for that imported piece of provolone from Italy, I'll do it. If not, I'll support the American business, okay? I'm still going to get a quality product. I'm going to pay $3.50 less, and at least I have a choice. My point is this, but Europe is so reliant on our products, particularly the products that come from our big businesses like Apple and Microsoft and everything else, okay? They need us. I'm not saying it's going to be a good thing if we alienated them, okay, completely. But at the end of the day, if it came into a pissing war, okay, they lose. See, we could always turn inward, which they always try to tell us that we should be afraid of doing. I'm not afraid of doing that. We turn inward. We encourage our businesses to grow and expand and build the products and services that we need in America. And you know what? With 360 million people, we'll still be the strongest country in the world without Europe and without Canada. So they have to listen to us for a change. And us, by the way, now in America does not mean Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and Nancy Pelosi. Us now means MAGA. We're putting our interests first, not yours. Canada's got to do the same thing. And the people of Europe, Joe, and they've shown signs of this, okay, people of Europe have to do the same thing with those oligarchs over there.
Oh, there's no question, but they're just so entrenched. Europe, I'll be honest with you, Europe is dead. In all honesty. I mean, outside of a massive turnaround, dude, England is a mess. Ireland is a mess. France is a mess. I mean, I pity the average man in those places. Spain, Portugal, it's a wasteland.
Right.
It really is. Unless you're like in the elite class, you are suffering big time. I mean, there was a time where Europeans migrated to America for this very reason. Well, that time has returned. I mean, it's a wasteland, and it's all because of globalism. And frankly, Canada is in the spider web. We escaped. Hopefully we stay out of the spider web. We could just as easily get back. People have to wise up. And frankly, people have to vote. Vote with your feet. Vote with your feet. Everybody has to get on board. Unity. Unity for your own survival. In plain English, it's for your own survival.
Right. Europe is not worth preserving anymore. In other words, Europe, that you know, where Western civilization was born, is not worth preserving anymore. Joe, they're doing it to themselves. The Muslims tried to invade Europe time and time and time again. Going back to 732, when they went into France, when they went through Spain and went into France, they were beaten back by Charles Martel at the Battle of Tours. They stayed in Spain for hundreds of years. Then they were kicked out of Spain in 1492. My point is, time and again, Vienna, Lepanto, okay, the Crusades before then. In other words, where we fought wars with Muslims and against Muslim aggression. Now the European Union just let them walk right in, and then they set up their own places. Muslims, they set up their own places with their own law. The French police don't even go into certain parts of Paris. Okay, in other words, the law doesn't. The French law does not apply there. They let them walk right in, and they're taking over. Somebody said recently, England is going to be the first Islamic state in Europe. That's what they're on the verge of. England's gone, okay, and they're not getting it back. They just let them walk right in and take over, and then we're supposed to just sit here and not do anything.
Well, that's the game plan. You're basically allowing foreigners to vote the nationalist agenda off the board. That was the game plan. That's what Biden tried to do.
Wildly successful.
That's exactly the game plan. It's the same game plan that they've done in a number of countries: Germany, France, Ireland, the UK, Canada, and America. We just got lucky. But that's exactly what they're trying to do in the name of democracy. We talked about this last week. People have to wise up. Again, vote them out. They're not on the side of regular people. They're on the side of an ideology. It comes down to that. You can't pay for basic things.
Right.
It's absurd.
Right. No. Listen, it is absolutely absurd. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why new media, I'm not calling it social media anymore. I'm going to call it new media. This is the new media. We're doing what everybody else is doing, which is just fine. Joe and I are not making any money off this, but in our own way, in our own style, we're letting everybody know what's going on, because the mainstream media, they're not going to ever, never tell you exactly what's going on. They'll tell you, don't believe your lying eyes when you see your country falling apart, particularly you people in Canada. They tried to tell us that a presidential nominee of the Democrat Party called half the country deplorable because those people, men and women, black and white, Hispanic and others, didn't want to vote for her. She called them deplorable. Okay. Joe Biden called us garbage. He called us garbage. He said, look at the garbage that's voting for Donald Trump. He called us garbage. Well, you need to get it through your heads. You got to get out there. You got to let your friends, your family, and everybody know, no, I'm not voting for this nonsense. Okay? We're going to have our arguments on our side of the fence. Believe me, there's going to be abortion arguments and other arguments that we're ready to have on our side of the fence. But on certain fundamentals, we are in agreement. And one of which is the oligarchs, they have to go. And part of this is not letting them intimidate you when, no matter who you are, when you want to speak up and you want to tell the truth about what's going on, especially when they start calling you a conspiracy theorist.
You a conspiracy theorist?
That is a pejorative, Senator, that's applied to me, mainly to keep me from asking difficult questions of powerful interests. I was told that I was a conspiracy theorist. That label was applied to me because I said that the vaccines, the COVID vaccine, didn't prevent transmission and it wouldn't prevent infection, when the government was telling people, Americans, that it would. I was saying that because I was looking at the monkey studies in May of 2020. I was called a conspiracy. Now everybody admits it. I was called a conspiracy theorist because I said red dye caused cancer. and now FDA has acknowledged that and banned it. I was called a conspiracy theorist because I said fluoride lowered IQ. Last week, JAMA published a meta-review of 87 studies saying that there's a direct inverse correlation between IQ loss.
All right, so I'm going to assume
I could go on for about a week.
Chances are he intends to continue to make money off his anti-vax position. Look, he says he won't go to work for drug companies because the American people have a right to know that the decisions made while he is Secretary of HHS are only for the good of the American people. And yet, he wants to keep a piece of the action on every one of these anti-vax lawsuits. And what that means potentially is, as Secretary of HHS, he can make those lawsuits a whole lot more profitable. In fact, he may have the opportunity to bankrupt the vaccine manufacturers, and then nobody gets vaccine.
Are you worried that he's in a position to serve his own interests?
That is the problem. He has said he will protect his right to make money off the position of Secretary of HHS.
What is she talking about?
She has no clue. What she's trying to do is he said he's not doing anything to make money while he's in
No, that's
office.
pure projection. She's getting money as well as the rest of the senators. That's what this is all about.
Well, he told Bernie Sanders straight up. And Bernie Sanders tried to shut him down. Go, no. He was trying to shut him down and stop him from speaking, but not before RFK Jr. turned around and says, in 2020, you received, no, I got it from the workers. No, it's documented. It's documented, Senator Sanders. You got more money than any senator in 2020.
They're all in the pockets of
pharmaceutical industry.
That's what this whole ridiculous show is about. First of all, this is the first thing. There is not a pharmaceutical company in the world that would hire RFK Jr. He's attacked them his entire life.
Right, but real quick, but she's trying to get him to not, after he leaves
I
office.
know, to prosecute them. Too bad. He's a lawyer.
He's a lawyer. He gets paid for what he does.
That's what I'm saying. He's not getting money as in he's on their payroll. He's getting money because he's exploiting the crimes that they're committing. And he's free to do that. I have no problem with that. He doesn't work for them. She's saying exactly what she and her cohorts in our government are doing. That's what this whole hearing is about. This isn't between Democrats and Republicans. Do you realize that Barack Obama almost made him the EPA commissioner? They're Democrats. They loved RFK. Now they don't. Why? Because he's attacking their pocketbook. That's how they run for office. Get that through your head. It has nothing to do with anything else but that. Nothing.
No, I know. It's just it's finally gotten to the point where I could get less angry now, and everybody out there knows that I could get real angry because Elizabeth Warren and I watched a bunch of clips today intermittently throughout the day. So I saw what they did to Kash Patel, what they were trying to do to RFK Jr., what they're trying to do to Tulsi Gabbard, and I'm kind of like, and I'm just sitting there going, doesn't matter. Because they're all going to get confirmed, every single one of them. Even without Susan Collins and Murkowski, they're all getting confirmed. That's the bottom line. So you know what, Senator Warren? You lose. You lose. Bernie Sanders, you lose. Senator Sanders, you lose, okay? You lost this time. And not only did you lose, you lost badly. Not only did you lose badly, there's about to be a severe transformation in this country. They are actually going to shrink the size of government, not cut spending, not give us a tax cut. I'm talking about totally revamp Washington and what Washington does. And we get all our money back. All the money that they take out of our paychecks, we are getting back. Okay? You're not taking any money out of my paycheck anymore. You want to keep the capital gains tax? Fine. You want to keep the tax on corporations? Fine. I got no problem with that. You're going to impose a tariff and excise taxes? Fine. Maybe even a national sales tax to a certain degree. Fine. But my paycheck is going to go back to me. And I go back to being independent and not giving you tens of thousands of dollars year in and year out. That's what they can't stand more than anything else. Joe, listen, the people that are going to get voted into office to go to the Senate or to go to the House from now on are going to be people that are going to go there not to make Washington better, but to wreck Washington, to wreck it, to take power away little by little by little by little. But I do hope that Trump makes a splash. I want him to impose these tariffs to let the American people know how we're going to raise money that's going to pay for him abolishing the personal income tax. That is
Shout
my
out to
personal
Alan
crusade.
Smith. Alan Smith's in the chat, our buddy. He's the Fulton Sheen man. Alan, I still have your shirt. I love it. The gas man. Love it. Love you, brother. You got to come back on the show. We miss you too.
We miss you, Al. But yeah, that's the thing is that, Joe, this is transformational. This isn't like voting for George Bush. Not even like voting for Ronald Reagan, to be honest with you. Okay? This is we're in a new world right now. And Donald Trump is the one who has the power right now, and we gave it to him. But MAGA as a movement is as serious as it is. I'm telling you right now, these people don't realize. See, Elizabeth Warren's safe because she's in deep blue Massachusetts. And Bernie Sanders, he's in deep blue Vermont. Okay? So they're safe. These other senators these blue senators in red states, okay, that sometimes happens, they're not so safe. And they're going to have to go along with what Trump wants if they want to get reelected. All right. And what Trump wants right now is tariffs and an abolition of the personal income tax, amongst other things.
Well, it's funny. I actually heard that the Gabbard, and they're very afraid of Tulsi Gabbard. Notice the people who cruise through. You have the CIA director, John Radcliffe. You have Rubio. They cruise right through. They're not going to make the waves. It's the people who they fight like hell. And to be honest with you, these are the biggies. Gabbard, they're trying to say that the election will be, as in the vote, will be a secret vote. So people don't know. They're actually trying to do that because they fear her the most. She may be the biggest one of them all, that she could basically revamp the intelligence community in America. But this one, the Bobby Kennedy one, is also big too, because this is lobbies. And this is how they all make their money. Kash Patel, another big one. The FBI, basically, which got weaponized against the American people. It got weaponized against a political opponent of the government. And that has to be demolished too, if you ask me.
Listen, it's all of the tricks that they've pulled. See, one of their biggest fears in the incoming or the now in Trump administration is Doge. Okay, and they tried to make a big deal about Vivek. Listen, Vivek would have been great. Okay, the concept of Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, is something that, see, Joe, that's kitchen table stuff. Doge is a product of people, Donald Trump actually listening to people like us. You want to know what I mean by that? We're tired of them spending money on things that they have no right to spend money on, that you can't convince me. And on any day, on any issue, you should be spending money on these things. Here, listen to this, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about what I'm about to say.
During this pause, Doge and OMB have actually found that there was $37 million that was about to go out the door to the World Health Organization, which is an organization, as you all know, that President Trump, with the swipe of his pen in that executive order, is no longer wants the United States to be a part of. So that wouldn't be in line with the president's agenda. Doge and OMB also found that there was about to be 50 million taxpayer dollars that went out the door to fund condoms in Gaza. That is a preposterous waste of taxpayer money. So that's what this pause is focused on, being good stewards of tax dollars.
Now, you know what they're going to say. It's not real. It's a small portion of the federal budget. When you take all that BS, Joe, and you add it up, and you look at the way they waste money in the Pentagon, they waste money at the Department of Education, they waste money in all these agencies and the way things are done, they are going to be able to gut $2 trillion out of the budget. And we won't blink. People like us, we won't blink an eye. Social Security, I promise you, won't be touched. Medicare and Medicaid won't be touched. Okay. The Department of Defense is going to have to take a shave. Everybody knows the Department of Defense could defend this country the way it is right now. Okay. Even with significantly less money than they go. Joe, the Department of Defense is up to near $1 trillion now. That's how much the Department of Defense budget is. Are you kidding me? You're going to tell me that we need to spend that much money on our defense? every single year. Are you kidding me? So the thing is, Doge is going in there, and they're going to be able to take it all out. But here's the thing, though: all the nonsense underneath. When you look at how it adds up, $50 million. How many condoms do they need in Gaza?
Well, I'll break it down. It's 50 million in contraceptive programs to Gaza, 181 million in DEI contracts, 1.7 billion in foreign organization aid, 40 million of which going to the World Health Organization, and 45 million in diversity scholarships in Burma. I could think of 100 things I could do with that in New York City alone. For instance, hire police officers and make the city safe. We could immediately, just with that money, New York would be the safest city in the world. And I don't want it all for New York. How about coast to coast? How about what's going on in North Carolina, Western North Carolina? We have to give money to Burma. I mean, let's be real. DEI contracts, $180 million. That's ideology over people. In plain English, that's in the first 2 weeks of money saved. That's your money. You work for that money. I don't want it going to Burma. I want scholarships for our people. Burma has to take care of Burma. Charity begins at home. If you have your son is hungry, before you give your paycheck away, you have to feed your son. That's common sense. That's just the way things are. The country's a wreck, Joe. It's a frigging wreck. We are not the country we were. And ultimately, that money has to stay here. That's not being greedy. That's basically take caring of necessity. How do I know? I go into New York City 3 times a week. I see it with my own eyes. New York City is a wasteland. It's a wasteland. Crime is rampant. It's full of garbage. People are getting high at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday. That's not a productive people. Right. Everywhere you go, you smell marijuana at all hours of the day. That to me is a people that are self-medicating. The mental health crisis in New York City is off the charts. How about we help those people? Right. You're giving money to Gaza. How about we help Americans first? And that's not being mean. Gaza could do without condoms. Diversity scholarships don't have to go to Burma. How about
if you can't walk and I'm a cripple, you know what I can't do? I can't help you walk. I have to make myself better first before I can help you. That's the bottom line. It's the natural law, like you said. I got to feed my kids first. My first and foremost moral obligation is to my wife and my son. I have to feed them first. And that's why I'm so hopped up on the personal income tax, because they've been treating our money as though it belongs to them, and they tell you what you could keep. Republicans and Democrats. George Bush gave me a 3% tax cut? Really? Really? Like that was what, George? Like, and I fell for it, Joe. I fell for it for years. But I always used to say we need an abolition of the personal income tax.
Yeah, you've always said that in fairness. I remember.
All right. And now we're about to get it. And guess what? If it comes to the expense right now of Canada and Mexico and these other countries in the form of a tariff, if it comes at the expense of all Americans in the form of a national sales tax to make up some of that, you're going to reduce government spending by God knows how many hundreds of billions of dollars because of Elon Musk and what he's going to be able to do when he gets in there and starts tearing apart the books at some of these places, getting rid of whole agencies, reforming other agencies. Okay, when all of that, when the spending starts to come down and the revenues are going up, and we as the American people could spend our money the way we want and not give it to the government. Okay, how about a working class guy? Let's just give it some brass tacks here. Okay. How much is a Catholic education for guys like us in New Jersey? Minimally 10 grand a year. No?
Yeah, about that.
High school education. Okay. An average working person, just use one person, the man, let's say. Sorry, all you feminists out there. The average man goes out, let's say, makes about $110,000 a year in New Jersey, which is no kind of real money in New Jersey. But let's be clear. That guy's paying about 20 to 22% federal income tax. About 20 to 22%. If he doesn't have to pay, he could send 2 of his kids to Catholic school in New Jersey. And then they're going to tell me that I'm supposed to what? Keep giving them my money, so I'm forced to send my kid to a public school, and I can't afford to send my kid to Seton Hall Prep, or let's say, Don Bosco, or Bergen Catholic, or whatever the case might be. Are you
That's
kidding
not
me?
even on the agenda. They in fact, that's why they punish people who do that, because they don't want you to not send your kid to the public school, because the public school is there to basically put ideas, as well as the colleges in America. They put ideas in kids' heads. They don't even teach them right. And I've heard this from many, many people. I have a friend that owns a pharmacy near me. She hires high school kids. She said to me, I was just in there this week. She said the high school kids, they're not learning anything. That's what she said to me, straight up. It's very sad. And frankly, I want to be independent of the government. I don't want anything from the government. I really don't. And I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I'll take care of my own. All I want you to do is provide an infrastructure, keep the country safe, provide services, and then get out of the way. Get out of the way. Government does not create jobs. Government does not boost the economy. People do that. Like business creation does that. Get out of the way. In plain English. And frankly, that is how it should be. That is how the country was founded. I am not interested in people with all your ideas. Frankly, your ideas do not benefit us. Right. And you don't believe me? Look at the mess in Canada. Look at the mess, the economic mess that Joe Biden has basically. The first clip we just talked about, the barber from the Bronx. Here's a guy that's working hard. He's on his feet 12 hours a day, working hard. And he's given all this money for energy, increases in electric. They're trying to get us off gas. Now you're bleeding us dry with our electric bill. Rent has gone up. How is he supposed to live? Oh, we know better than you. No, you don't.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Well, listen, Joe, we got to bring it to an end. I will say this, and I believe this in my heart. It always takes those who lie and who lie for a living, mainly in the Democrat Party, but Republicans, establishment Republicans, they're guilty of it too, particularly in our lifetimes. It took a very long time to have these things sink into the consciousness of the American people. Like, you always have to pay personal income tax, and the government has to be big. And yes, the CIA, we have to be the world's policeman, and all these things. It does not take that. When you have the truth on your side, all right, when you're fighting for good things, objectively good things, knowing that you're defeating those who would enslave you, okay? No, these things can happen very quickly. It takes them decades because they have to convince you of a lie. But we're going in there with the truth. When you expose the budgets of some of these agencies, it's going to be the light of day is going to be on it. And the American people are going to say, what the F have you been doing with our money that we entrusted you with? This is what you did. Now, guess what? Now it's all gone. Okay. Now the Department of Education is all gone. Okay. Now the Department of Energy is going to be gone. All these agencies that have no right to exist, they don't do any good. Most of them are redundant. You're all gone. Okay. You take all that out of the way. And you know what, Joe? You know what you get? When you save all that money that you're not taxing the American people, when you're not wasting it in government and that money's getting reinvested in the United States, our prosperity starts to go up very, very quickly, Joe. When you start drilling now, Joe, these companies are quick, Joe. These companies are ready to go. They're ready to go and get our energy, to bring our energy so we can go back to, I want to go back to $2 a gallon gas. I want to go back to that. You want to know what, Joe? Trump proved it could happen like that. Joe Biden proved, by the way, that if you want to, you can make the prices go up just like that. My point, and I'm going to throw it over to you, one final word, none of this, if you have the will to do it, will take very long at all to start seeing some very tangible results. First of which will be that line on your pay stub that's federal income tax will now say 0 with a slash through it.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he does pull that off, that will convince a lot of people, because I'm going to tell you this. Bill Clinton said it. He said it's the economy. That is the biggest driver. It's an apolitical issue. If he could create money in people's pockets, he will have more support. Period. End of story. I'm telling you right now, that's the driver. The two things that elected Donald Trump, well, the three. It was the economy, it was the open border, and it was basically X. I'm going to tell you right now, people were informed. If he keeps a strong economy, if he keeps the border shut down, delivering on his promises, I'll tell you this, he may win the midterm too. He may win the midterm too, because if people see a turnaround in their pocketbook, you can't lie when you look in your checkbook. And not everybody has drank the Kool-Aid. Many people are indifferent, Joe.
Right.
In fact, most are. Most people are not news junkies. They just work. And all they want to do is be left alone. And when they see more money coming in, if that's the end result, if that's what he's shooting for, and if that happens and he delivers, Donald Trump will be viewed as a successful president, like him or not. That is the issue. Right. That is the issue.
And the Republicans in the House and Senate that go along with this and stop being establishment and actually do something to transform this country, they're going to be rewarded for it by their constituents too. We want to thank you all out there for joining us here at the Front Line with Joe and Joe. Remember, wherever you're watching this, X, Rumble, Facebook, YouTube, like, subscribe, share, help us out. You guys always help us out. We love you all. We see you in the chat room. Too many people. Hey, Joe, it's to the point where there's too many new people in there. We can't even give all the shout outs that we want, but we see you all in there. All of our friends, Canada and the United States. Listen, let's just keep praying for one another, and let's continue to show some stones and speak the truth. Get our news from social media, I said I wasn't going to say that, from new media, not from mainstream media where the liars are. Let's keep praying for Donald Trump. He seems to want to do things that are in our interest and not in everybody else's interest. And you know what? We're all in favor of that. So thanks once again. Remember, Thursday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern time. That's when we go live. And we all put all of our interview shows that we do for the radio are all on our new media pages. So thanks once again. And remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on